Hello and greetings, fellow quitters. We're back with another edition of the Command Q podcast, and we're your hosts. I'm John Pelfrey.
And I'm Mari Casey.
Do you ever go to the gym and feel like you're doing it wrong? Whether you work out consistently or you're trying to start a new habit, it's normal to feel a little lost when it comes to things like hitting the gym and what you should do when you're there. If you've ever had the sinking feeling that you don't know what you're doing or that everybody else can tell that you don't know what you're doing, this episode is for you. Bryan Meyer is today's guest. He has gone from training legendary professional basketball athletes like Dwight Howard to helping regular folks lead their best lives. And today we're going to get in touch with our inner athlete. Please welcome Bryan Meyer. So we have a little warm-up question here. Have you ever observed someone using a piece of gym equipment in a bizarre way? Like maybe dangerous, maybe, but also what are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think social media kind of destroys that right now, and they send you all those funny ones. But yeah, I mean, as a younger trainer, when I was in a larger health club, they would want us to go up to people, and help them how to use the machine. And to be honest, now I'm a little bit better. I have a lot more to go. Obviously, we want to keep learning, but yeah, I mean, people kind of invent stuff with different machines and some crazy exercises. And there are some that are pretty creative. And I'm like, yeah, you could actually use it that way. So, some people don't think about that because basically, right, it's just a restraint and it's pushing you in different directions. But yeah, I've seen some weird stuff. I don't want to say the cities that I saw it in, but yeah, for sure.
Not in Raleigh, though.
No, I'm new here. So I haven't seen anything weird in Raleigh. Everybody's perfect.
Yeah, everybody's perfect. Yeah, one of the things, Mari, that you may or may not know, I don't know, it's if you follow Bryan's Instagram, he's always showing actually different ways to use gym equipment. And they have this tool called a Kaiser at the gym that is I guess it's compressed air that causes the resistance. And you can use that thing in a million different ways. And Bryan's always coming up with new ways to use it, putting them up on Instagram.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like any machine, whatever you're trying to do, right? Muscles pull one insertion to the other. The joint is either closing or opening. And once you kind of figure that out, whatever you're trying to do to the person, you can manipulate it. And, if you think about it, every exercise, everything is made up, so a lot of the times well, where do you get this? Well, I kind of made it up, or I stole it from somebody. And then I was trying to do more of this for this person, or this person needed more internal rotation, or I wanted to get a trunk rotation and help with their shoulder. So that's kind of the art of it. But I mean, it is physics, it's biomechanics, it's all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, making it fun and purposeful.
Yeah.
Cool. I think the strangest thing I've ever seen is what people wear to the gym. I always find super interesting because I've seen costumes, a lot of clothes or a lack thereof, or people's footwear choices where I'm just I don't know if flip-flops is a good idea. A lot of kids now are wearing slippers, it's their regular shoes. And that's an old person thing to be why are you wearing slippers out? But also people wearing slippers when they're at the gym. And I'm I don't think that's going to feel good when you drop a dumbbell on your foot. But
well, if you have the Crocs in sport mode, you'll be good.
Sport mode, yeah. You can do anything.
Yeah, my daughter says that. Dad, I'm going to put it in sport mode right now. And I'm I hate those damn things to begin with.
We always say you can't kick ass in a Croc. I'm just sorry, you just can't.
Exactly. But I have tried them on once and I was I like these things, but I will not buy them. And nobody saw me wear them. But no,
your secret's safe with us.
Yeah, I get what you're saying though, for sure.
Yeah, they used, Mari actually told me this. They used Crocs in the movie Idiocracy, which was recorded 20 something years ago. Are you familiar with that movie?
I'm not.
It is a movie that predicted a lot of the future and a lot of the things that we're kind of seeing or going through right now in terms of the dumbifying of the world and everything. And they use Crocs as the shoe of the future, essentially.
Wow.
And it's funny because of all the things that was predicted in that movie, the popularity of Crocs, they absolutely nailed it. Because back then it wasn't really a thing, and now it is.
Oh yeah, they're killing it.
Yeah,
they're killing it.
He picked it because he knew I need a company that's cheap, because it was a low budget film, cheap, and the likelihood of this actually becoming real and a real brand is really a farce at that point. Wow. And funny enough, it became super popular.
Yeah. It really did. Yeah. It's a movie worth watching on a weekend if you just want to laugh and then cry a little bit because you're like, oh, this is a little too
We all need that, especially today.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we know that you've worked with professional athletes in the past. You wrote a book called Chasing the Title, talking about your work with Dwight Howard, and you've worked with a lot of high-end athletes. And the topic for today, what we're actually going to talk about is like quit assuming that you aren't athletic and the idea that sort of like anybody can be athletic. And so, you've worked with like a broad range of athletes in that time. One of the things that kind of kicked us off or piqued our interest was this idea that you like to work with corporate athletes. Can you give us an idea of what you think a corporate athlete is, or sort of like me, an armchair athlete, I guess?
I mean, I'm looking at, I'm one right now too. And you guys are too. So I really say anybody that's 25 plus, all the way, 55, 65, 70. I actually just had a 70-year-old. He's almost 70. He plays pretty high level pickleball. He's super banged up, some meniscus issues. He's got arthritis. His hips stink. And so basically a corporate athlete is somebody who is, I don't want to say past their prime because I feel like I'm still doing very good. You're still kicking butt. You look like you're kicking butt over there. Is somebody that still wants to be, and I hope that's all of us, but unfortunately it's not, to be active and to be able to pick up a racket, pick up a bat, run with their daughter, go skiing, and not be afraid to do an activity. Oh, I can't do it. I have to train for that. No, if I want to go jog with my daughter, I want to be able to do it right now. So it's basically training these people, and I call, life as a sport. Right? Unfortunately, America overall, we don't do a great job at that. But the people that we service here at the Performance Hub and that I was dealing with in Florida that weren't my athletes were these people that want to be active and don't want to tear their Achilles and their hamstring when they go play pickleball on the weekend. And the training is slightly different. And it's modified, but at the same time, anything from, yes, mobility and flexibility is important, but obviously the older you get, the stiffer you get. And we want to keep that elasticity, especially in our Achilles, in our calf. We want to keep our hips healthy so our back and our knees don't take all the grunt of it. So it's those type of athletes, like I said, that want to be active. We're all athletes. And training them in a progression that fits their needs. So a high-level high school kid or high-level professional athlete, that's kind of, I know they go to school and whatnot, but if I'm talking just pro athletes, that's their job. So what they're going to maybe go do a commercial, they're going to go with their skills coach, and then they're going to train, and then they're going to do it again. And you have them for 3-4 months, or a period of time. So it's a little bit easier when you have somebody like us, right? We work, we have kids, we might be really tired. We might have to stay up late to drive somewhere. And so the progressions and stuff are a lot different. But I also, when I have my group, and I love groups at the same time, but I hate groups at the same time, because if I have a group of 3 and I had a CEO, a president of a bank, I had a lawyer, and then I had he's kind of the Michael Jordan of choreography for dancers, and he's about 30. So I had all 4 of those together today. I've trained them separately. They've been with me for a long time, but they can all work out together, and I know them good enough where they can train as a group. And they're all in different places in their life, but I also want them to be able to accelerate, decelerate, move, pull, push. I don't want them to sit under a bench and be able to dumbbell press 200 pounds and squat 300 pounds, yet they can't twist and pick up something, or they can't stop and rotate. Oh, there goes my hamstring and that doesn't matter. And so that is, in a nutshell, a corporate athlete.
I think that's great. I mean, I think a lot of people, before they get actual training from people like you, they assume that being an athlete a lot of times is, I go to the gym and I lift some weights. Maybe I use the machines at, Planet Fitness or whatever, and I'm getting stronger and I can feel myself like bulking up or whatever. But it's that functional strength thing. That's been the change for me in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
is understanding, like you said, the stop and start. So important. I play a lot of tennis, and the stop and start is everything. And the reason that I started to go see Andrew, one of your colleagues, is I was not stopping well, and the stopping caused knee pain, and then that caused lower back pain, and then that caused all kinds of other stuff. And so it is those basic functional movements. The time that I actually pulled my back out the worst was when my son was little, and I just picked him up out of the crib, and all of a sudden my back locked up to me, and I went, whoa,
Right.
and I had to set him down very slowly, and then kind of, and it's a functional movement issue, right?
Yeah.
Like I was sitting, working, doing whatever, and you don't think, oh, I'm going to go pick up a 20-pound baby, that's going to hurt me. But even in that situation,
right.
Yeah, that's tricky. And so then when you go throw me out on a tennis court or a volleyball court or a pickleball court or riding a mountain bike or whatever it might be, I'm prone to a lot of injury. And I found that out really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I mean, anybody over 30, 35, like, right, we don't recover as quick as we were in our, mid to early 20s, but there's still training that you can do to keep progressing. And sometimes, like I said, when I had that group of 3 to 4, I'm asking every one of them how they feel, so I can kind of read them. And when you have that one, so say, for example, I'll just use Dwight, that I was with a bunch of NBA guys in NFL, but I had him for the longest period of time. I pretty much kind of lived with him for 3.5 months. So whenever we would travel, and that was during his prime, so China, Mongolia, like I would go everywhere. So I knew what he was doing, whether he was sleeping, what he was eating, and I could kind of keep track. When we have corporate athletes, right, we don't know, were they out drinking, having a business meeting? Were they really tired? Did they run 5 miles and their knees are really hurting? Was their wife or their husband a pain in the butt and they were fighting and their cortisol levels are super high? So all those things come into play, and that's a little bit more of the art of training the corporate people, the real people, right? Because if you got a pro athlete, that's their job, right? And hopefully, right, I got lots of stories, but that 25, 30-year-old is taking that career and being a professional. Again, we can save some of those stories for later, but like you hopefully that person, that's their sole job. When you're a corporate real world person like we are, you can't have super progression. Okay, we're doing this today. We're doing this next week. It kind of bobs and weaves. And that's the part where when I first came into the profession, we had progressions and this and that. And we do, but at the same time, like I got the privilege of training you when Andrew was gone, right? And I knew what you'd done with Andrew, and I had talked to him before, but I was also asking you some questions on how you feel. What did you do yesterday? Did you sleep? So I can kind of get an idea, and I have enough tools in my toolbox for doing this for 20 something plus years where I can pull those out, and I can also read the corporate person. Hopefully, I'm not great at it all the time, but hopefully I'm pretty good at it. And then we can find kind of that happy medium, depending, like if you had a match the next day, if you were doing some sort of event. So that's a big difference between real world corporate people and that pro athlete that's their job.
Yeah. And you also get people like Mari was a college athlete. She's a volleyball player, and she trained, I'm going to speak for you a little bit, but you trained basketball, volleyball a lot as a kid, and then you took a little bit of a break. And so Mari, you might want to talk about that a little bit. And then your re-entry into like exercising again, like hardcore, 'cause you're going at it pretty hard this year specifically, I know, but you've always stayed in shape, but I think you trained
prioritized
hard as a kid, and now you're a parent and a worker, and then you've gone back to it. So what has that been like for you on that side?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is like, and I'd be curious to see what you've seen too, Bryan, but it's like when you're performing at a high level and athletics is your, like you said, a job, that you're going and training 2 to 3 times a day, and you're in season and then you're off season. And when I left after I stopped playing and I got into like working, I didn't know how to work out as a corporate athlete. I was like, what do you mean? I'm not miserable and I'm not, done at the end. I mean, for me, working out was, and just in training was, you're going hard 110%. And so when I was getting into work and work was really draining, like the last thing I wanted to do was just go kick my butt at the gym. I was like, I'm so tired. I can't do that. So it was really hard for me to grasp how to maintain and work out in a way that was like longevity focused and
Yeah,
like
100%.
like functionally focused. And it took me a long time to get it. I'm still trying to get it because I still feel like I'm like I should be punished.
Yeah, and I get it too, because I was a pretty competitive athlete too. So like that was, and then when you're younger too, you think like, oh, you got to go hard, you got to make them not walk the next day and this and that. But I get it. I mean, a lot of the people that we have in here, we kind of have different progressions that we go through on, like, they're going to do agility movement, they're going to do some power, they're going to do hip hinge, push pull type stuff, and they're going to have that. But again, they might be sprinkled in different parts. And one thing, just to talk about a tip for somebody like you who is trying to still figure that out, and I'm still trying to figure it out too with my work, work life and all that stuff, and being able to recover and being able to do what I like to do at a fairly decent level, is microdosing. So I don't know if you've heard that before, but if I have a half hour and I know yesterday I rode my bike and my legs are a little bit tired, I might do just pulling exercises and extension exercises. So we know for biking, all right, your quads and your gastroc are probably going to do more of the work. So I did that. Say I'm tired on Monday. Tuesday, I have a half hour in the gym. I'm going to do lats, so a back exercise, and I'm going to do hamstrings. And that takes me a half hour, and I'm very systematic in that. I'm done. And then maybe at the end of my work day, I might go for a jog, or I might do something cardio wise. So I think people sometimes lose focus on like, I got to go super hard. I got 45, 60 minutes. My legs are completely dead the next day because I just lit them up. Well, it doesn't really make sense, because you have to be with your husband, or you have to do what you need to do. So I think that microdosing is something that people are like, oh, I only got a half hour, I can't work out. Sure, you can. Like kick ass for 20 minutes, 25 minutes and get it done, but be purposeful with what you're doing. I like the gym, but I don't really want to spend more than 45, 50 minutes, like I want to get out of here, So I think that's something that people can utilize a little bit more. And you don't have to make it super nerdy. You just do 30 minutes of one or two body parts, and then maybe the next day do the opposite side of the body for 30 minutes. And then maybe do something on that middle day that breaks it up, and then go back to that again. But that way you recover a little bit faster, rather than just destroying your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings. And you're like, damn, I can't even walk up and down the stairs. For us in real world, sometimes that doesn't make sense, just to completely destroy your legs or your upper body. So
yeah, it takes me longer to recover between exercise now. It doesn't matter how much protein I eat or how much sleep I get or whatever. I can't wake up tomorrow and feel great if I work out like that. That's one thing that I've learned too, is how to pace myself a little bit. I'll play tennis. I like to get 2 matches in a week. I used to get 4 or 5 matches in a week, and I realized I couldn't do that and perform the way that I wanted to perform. So I am for like 2 matches where I can go all out, and then that gives me a couple days break in between, or days to work out, days to recover, all of that too. So a lot of it for me is like pacing myself. I want to play tennis every single day. My brain says, let's go out on the court, but then my shoulder doesn't like it after the 3rd day in a row, or my knee doesn't like it after the 2nd day. And so it's that pacing thing too. And I've seen that. I have friends that are runners, and they go out and they run every day. And they're like, if I don't get my 5 miles in every single day, and then over time they build up, pain or whatever. And
yes,
you see that a lot. I think people just don't, the brain goes, but I love the dopamine, I want to go do it.
Yeah. And I, it's just like you said, when you got done, playing your competitive sports where you're kind of struggling in the gym. Well, I think we can find other ways to be creative and make it competitive for those people that played sports. Now, some people don't have that problem because now they use work as that competitive thing, which is great, but then we want to offset that. For me now, and for I would say the majority of my corporate people, is I want to make them be able to play those 2 matches, and so I'm training them for that. I'm training them, to be able to run, to be able to go surf, to be able to go ski and do those things. So It's tough, but we do have to kind of realize that we're over 30 and, we're considered a corporate athlete or whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And, you do need to take care of yourself, because in the end, you don't want to be 55, 60, 65, and then all these things are broken. And then you can't do anything that you really, really love.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough.
Yeah. So, sometimes people have goals, I have goals for things that I want to get to. And sometimes people just want to get healthy and they want to, everyone has different motivations. I want to lose weight. I just want to get stronger. I want to whatever, but we're not always training for something. Not everyone trains like I'm going to run a half marathon in 6 months or, whatever. What do you recommend to people that want to get out from behind the desk a little bit and they just want to get started and maybe they don't have a goal yet or they haven't found that thing that really sort of lights them up yet, but they know they need to start somewhere? How do we get started?
Well, I mean, I always say you need to have something that kind of gives you that buzz, whether it's walking a 5K, running a 5K. Partners help, having that. I actually don't like working out with somebody that much because I feel like they don't know what's all banged up on me. But I also think just having a goal of getting in a routine, and that's half the battle, right? Like, yeah, you can pick these great exercises, this and that, but if you don't show up, like, it doesn't matter. So I think that's an accomplishment of just saying, I got in 4 this week. It was 40 minutes. It was 30 minutes. And you should be excited and happy with that, because so many people don't get into that. So I think we're almost too hard on ourselves sometimes, being, I gotta press more. I gotta do more in the weight room, this and that. Just freaking show up, and be consistent with that, and if you can do that, I think that is something that is easy to grasp rather than looking at certain numbers or whatnot. I always do something kind of simple where each month I'll kind of pick something that I want to do. For example, some of these longevity, and it's a kind of a buzzword now, longevity training, but it's true. A very simple one is, and I do it with all if their shoulders are healthy, is just do a pull-up dead hang. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Huberman or some of the other super popular people have talked about that, but that's a very simple one. Seeing if you can do that for a minute. I'm big on isometrics. Isometrics are where the actin and the myosin, basically like the Velcro, it just holds, and then the muscle doesn't lengthen or shorten. So it just sits in a certain position and you have to hold that. So I don't want to say it's simple, but is a lunge. So if you go into a 90-degree lunge, can you hold that for 30 seconds to a minute body weight? All right. Seems very simple. Now, okay, you did that twice this week. All right. Can you do it 3 times next week? Now, can you add 20 pounds? Can you add a vest? Can you add 50 pounds? And can you hold that position? So isometrics are something that people can challenge themselves with, and in a safer manner, right? Because if I'm just in that lunge holding that 90-degree position, and say for a month I was doing body weight, and then I got up to a minute, now I'm adding 20-pound dumbbells. If you can't hold that, what do? You just drop the dumbbell. All right. I don't have a barbell. I don't have anything that, obviously you can get hurt, but it's much safer. And then you can also read yourself. Do your knees feel good? Does your back feel good? Like, rather than just throwing a weight on there and trying to push through it, and then you could do a lot of harm. I don't want to say isometrics are perfect and you're not going to get hurt, but they are much, much safer, and you can challenge yourself in a very safe manner. So just holding, a dead hang 30 seconds to a minute. Yes, if you don't have shoulder range of motion to do flexion, do not do this. But if you do, and your shoulders are healthy, get some grip strength and see if you can lengthen that out and see if you can hold there and challenge yourself. So there's multiple ones, like I said, with the lunge, a push-up hold, a wall sit, very simple challenges that it doesn't have to be super, super complex.
I think a lot of the stuff too is like, we were talking about goal setting and like setting, when you're an athlete and you're training for something, then that's like what you've got like laser focus on. And then, John's training for tennis. And, I have a lot of friends who are like, I'm not an athlete. I don't do the training thing. And I think there is like a misnomer because one of my pet peeves is when someone says, I'm not artistic. I'm like, everybody can be artistic in their own way. You don't have to be drawing pictures. You could be being artistic through math. And I think with athletics and training, like when everyone says like, I'm not athletic, I don't do that. I'm like, that's just a cop out because in my mind, you could be training for, like we always say, training for the longevity Olympics. I'm training to be 100 years old and be able to like pick up my grandkids. And I think as we get older, as athletically minded, physically moving humans, the mindset of like, what is our goal doesn't have to be, I'm going to be a state champion. It can be, I'm going to be, able to walk around the neighborhood 5 times a week or something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And I think sometimes we lose that creativity because we are so scripted in this deadline is here. I have to be able to sprint this fast. I have to have my vertical jump this, that. And some people like John will say, oh yeah, well, I want to be able to play my match. But some people, I have probably a fourth of my people that don't play a sport and they just all of a sudden, for example, they were with their kids and they were running around and they're like, Bryan, I felt really good just running around. Like my knees were good, this and that. Like, I'm like, awesome. Like that gives me goosebumps, just like seeing my NBA guy on TV. I think sometimes you just nailed it where just kind of be creative and think of something. It doesn't have to be super complicated and be happy with that. I walked around the block 5 times and I kicked ass doing it. And it was a fast walk. A month ago, I could barely get off the couch. Mm-hmm. Like that's killing it. Now keep going.
Yeah, I will say as an example of that, and this is one of the benefits, I think, when my knee was hurting so bad and all that, I struggled to walk, like walking up and down stairs, just walking in general was really difficult for me. And now I go on walks with my wife and we'll walk 3 to 5 miles at a time. And we'll do that 3 or 4 times a week. And that's, quality time that I get to spend with her where we're talking about whatever it is, but we're getting in exercise. We're hitting sort of that, zone 2 cardio thing. And so yesterday we went on a hike. We got lost in a park and there was a thunderstorm coming. It was, it starts to get stressful, but at the same time, my knee didn't hurt at all. My hips didn't hurt. And we were able to make it and get through there that quickly. And a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have even gone on that walk and spent that time with her. And so there are other benefits, I think, to this and to training and getting healthy and getting better. A lot of them, you can just build better relationships with your loved ones if you go take the time to do those types of things. I love that example of just going on a walk because that's been a really sort of big change, not just for me personally, but like in my relationship with my wife.
I can 100% agree with that. And I'm just going to use myself as an example. So I mountain bike a lot. I'm over 40. I have a pretty competitive background in the bike stuff in the past. And I had that at my past location in Florida. When I got here, I had a hard time finding people that were my age that I wasn't teaching them how to ride. That's not fun for me. I like that, but if I only have a Saturday afternoon, I don't want to teach. I love helping people, but you get what I'm saying. You got that half hour, like
that's your job. You want to go blow off steam.
So 90% of the time I ride with high school and college kids because they're not sitting there drinking beer, smoking, being lazy. Like these kids want to get out and ride. And I don't want to spend my time, like you said, John, like I want to be able to keep doing this safely. Like obviously I'm not doing some of the stuff I was doing, when I was younger, and that's built my relationships with them. I wish more people my age would keep trying to kick butt in a safe way, but most of I can't do that anymore. I'm just going to go on my stationary bike. Well, I get it. If you're at that level, keep doing that. But there's so many people that, road ride, gravel ride, do whatever. And then they just kind of like give up. And I'm like, no, I can't do that anymore. No, you can still do it. You just do it a little bit safer and differently, but the relationships you build, are important, right? Like when you do that, it just, people come together, whatever your thing is, hiking, tennis, whatnot.
Yeah. Well, and the type of biking and mountain biking that you do, there's a little bit of danger and risk involved in that if you're not skilled at it, right?
Yes.
Like
yes.
So for somebody like me that when I was in my 20s, I probably would have been like, yeah, let's go do that. I look at it and I'm like, I don't know. That jump looks a little big. There's just a little second guessing there. So I can understand
But
that.
that would be like me going to try to play tennis with you, right? You would have
Yeah.
to help me and you
Yeah.
would do it. But if you only had a half a Saturday, like, damn, Brian,
Yeah.
I don't want to teach you how to do that, right? It's the same sort of thing. You would do
Yeah.
it. Let's pick another day, Brian. Then I can help you because I want to play today. Right?
Yeah, totally. If you ever want to learn to play tennis, I'm happy to help. Between Andrew and I, that'd be funny. Yeah. So speaking of like learning new skills and all of that, talk a little bit about central nervous system and central nervous system training and how you go about that and how our brains and our nervous system can help us and hurt us as we're learning to perform and move around. I know that that's one of the big topics that you like to talk about.
Yeah, well, I mean, and just in life, like when we were playing sports, right, it's very reactive, right? And then you want to get to that point in any sort of learning stage, right? When the ball's coming at you where it's autonomous, right? And things just happen, right? The motor skills, however you want to classify that. And I can definitely see people here that have played some sort of sport, some sort of activity, some sort of musical instrument, some sort of hand-eye coordination, foot coordination at a young age. And I don't care if they were at a good level or they played grade school, but you can definitely tell the people that played those activities and their motor skills might be rusty, their central nervous system might be rusty. I don't care if it's perfect form or whatnot, but that comes back quick. And then I have a couple people, I will not say their names, I love them, they're great people, but they didn't play a damn thing. And it's like a deer in headlights when we do movement training, agility, whatever you want to call it. But when I can get them to see other people their age and get them to move better, get them to understand how to decelerate in a linear stance, how to move laterally, how to do an athletic stance and drop on one leg. There's multiple things that we progress them through so they can feel more like the athlete in them. So when it comes to the central nervous system stuff, and motor skills, I kind of lump that into one for all my corporate guys, is the ability to react and not have to think so much. A very simple one that Lee Taft is a movement guy in our industry, and he's got a niche in that, and he's really good at that. Him and a couple other guys that I've watched and took different things is basically like when we do a warm-up, you've probably done these before, your dynamic warm-up, right? Your inchworms, your side lunges, and that stuff's great. But when it comes to, and I did it probably with 2 or 3 people today, you take a lacrosse, this is a central nervous system warm-up. You take a tennis ball, you take a lacrosse ball, and we know from movement, your athletic stance is 90 degrees, kind of in that kind of athletic position, your triple threat position, if you call basketball, tennis, whatnot. So you take that lacrosse ball, you have the person stand up, they drop the ball, and you drop into an athletic stance squat. Let the ball bounce once and catch it with the opposite hand. Do it again. Do it from your right hand, drop the ball, catch it with your opposite hand. Seems very easy, but now you have another stimulus, all right? So now we take that, say that's our level 1. Now say I'm standing up, I take the ball behind me and I drop the ball. As I drop the ball, I twist as fast as I can to my left and I catch it with my left hand in my athletic stance. Now I hold it behind me with my left hand, I twist as fast as I can to my right. It bounces once and I catch it with the opposite hand. So now you're putting different stimuluses in there to get that person to have to move, to have to react. That's a very simple kind of motor skill, central nervous system. And it's not that simple, right? It might seem simple for you guys, but just to get that person to be able to I drop a ball and then I go into a squat, it bounces once and then I got to catch it. For some people, that's kind of uncomfortable. All right, I'm going to make you uncomfortable. All right, you're laughing, right? I'm laughing at John. I dropped it. All right, now I caught it the 3rd time. Now my confidence is kind of coming in, and you can see that kind of progression in their brain coming alive, and I can do it. So we go through different things like that and use different stimuluses to get them to move. Another very simple one, say John and I were partners and we use the turf and we're going to use a ball. All right, this might be a little bit hard for some people, but for you guys, I know it wouldn't. And we're going to shuffle down the turf facing each other very slow. And all I'm going to do is toss the ball back and forth. And we have to catch it as we shuffle down. I'm not trying to throw it at John really hard. We're trying to be a team. And say I have a group of 4 corporate people and we're partners. John's got another partner and we're shuffling down. Don't drop the ball, guys. All right, because we're going to have a punishment. And you can talk to these corporate people. I can talk to these corporate people because these guys are alphas in their, like, they want to be spoken to a certain way. They want to get their stuff done, and they also want to have a good time. So we're shuffling down the turf, and I'm throwing the ball back and forth. We have to catch it. And now you see the different motor skills come alive, and you can progress people through that. Now, if I have a group that's not very athletic, that might be the highest level that they do. But I may take that same progression, and I know John, great athlete, all right? We're going to shuffle down here. I have the ball. We're shuffling down the turf. I'm going to say turn. As we're shuffling, you're going to rotate 360 as fast as you can. As soon as you face me, I'm going to toss the ball. You're going to catch it. You're going to throw it back to me. We're going to shuffle again down the length of the turf for 20 yards. I'm going to say turn again. You rotate again, face me. As soon as you face me, I toss you the ball. Now, obviously, I can't do that with somebody that is not somewhat athletic or doesn't have the confidence to do that. But gradually, you can add different stimuluses to the person. And before you know it, they're moving and they feel good moving. And that's huge to see. Those people that have not played a sport, it's pretty hard to get out of them. But most of the time you can give them an easier progression and still get it out of them, if that kind of makes sense. Those are some kind of central nervous system, fun motor skill games to play. And it's a warm up.
It's interesting. And it also sounds a lot like the things you would do with a child when they're starting to learn their basic hand-eye coordination and movement and all of those types of things. I know for me, I've taught a lot of tennis, and one of the things it's similar to that is I'll get people at all ages that are learning the sport and they've never learned how to throw a ball.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I start to teach them how to serve, and I say a serve is just like a throw, you just throw the racket up, and they're like,
back it up,
like throw the ball over the net, and they can't figure out how to throw the ball over the net, and I'm like, okay. But that's always my test. And so then the next thing after that is like, okay, well, if throwing the ball is difficult, then we're going to just focus on some basic, fundamental, foundational movements. Because if you can't throw a ball over from the baseline over the net, then that means you don't understand like how to shift your weight forward, from your back foot to your front foot. There's a lot of things. And so we start really simple and then we build and grow from there. And it is really amazing, especially in the early stages. You can learn that stuff really, really quickly. Even people that don't have a lot of skills, the types of things that you're talking about, you can over the course of just a couple of weeks go from, I don't know how to do this, to being very proficient at it. Really,
100%.
Really
and that's, I think, you being a good coach and reading them, right? You're doing the same thing that I'm doing, but just in the tennis world, right? Because you're not going to tell that kid or that adult that and ruin their confidence. You're just going to be like, okay, all right, now I'm going to regress. Now I'm going to progress. And when you have, it's the same thing like you said with the kid, I used to train a lot of youth soccer, is I always want to build their confidence up, right? So you don't want to destroy the corporate athlete or that kid and be like, you can't do level 3. Like, who cares? Like, your goal is to get them to a point where you push them a little uncomfortably and then they see what possibly they're going to be able to do and leave them in a positive way. So they want to come back and they're like, oh yeah, Bryan, I did this, or I couldn't serve and now I can. So it's almost like kind of tricking them into doing it. And then, I'm sure you have great pride when you see somebody be able to serve, right? I have 2 ladies that they have no athletic ability at all. All right. But to have them be able to learn to stop, and I always have to keep correcting them, but now to get them, if I just say they're going down the turf and I just say, do 2 shuffles and then do your karaoke grapevine. Like they get
Yeah.
it, right? And that's a huge win for them, right? So
Yeah.
we're happy with that. So that's the art of coaching, which you do great with the tennis, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it's like, it's trying to get people to understand. And I do this with the girls. I coach girls basketball and volleyball. And it's like, you don't have to be the best at something. You just have to show up consistently. And I think with people who are maybe sedentary moving into training, I love the idea of the tennis ball too, because we're talking about strength training. And I'm helping my daughter learn to serve volleyball. And her coach was like, she just needs to get stronger. The best way for her to get stronger is just to throw the volleyball back and forth, one arm at a time, get that arm strong, throw it over here and, do a weighted ball. And I think a lot of times as adults, we're thinking about like, I need to become from sedentary to like gym rat. I have to go in and start lifting weights. I have to start going like, hitting the squat rack and doing all those classes. And it's like, just get out in the backyard and start throwing ball every day, or just start doing that consistently. And then it's because I think a lot of times, and I ran into this too, where it's like, I just want to start right now. So then I go out and I try to run a 5K and I haven't, gotten off the couch in 6 years. And then I'm miserable and I hate it. And I'm like, well, that's why I don't do that. So I love the idea of like something small and consistent. And then you start retraining that again, you start retraining your mind again to enjoy it. Because I think when people are not used to that type of training, then they don't know how to start it. And so they don't start it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like John with your coaching and me, that yes, I'm a performance coach, but at the same time, you want to instill that confidence. And I just had I had 3 younger kids. They were all freshmen. They're pretty decent, high level athletes. And one of them, are we going to bench today? Are we going to squat today? And it's almost the opposite, right? Like, when we're older, we're like, oh, we need to move more. We need to and then with these younger kids, just social media and the way it is, you got to get in the weight room. So I wasn't expecting you to say that your coach said, you just need to hit more, because at least back in my day, my coach would be like, Bryan, you need to get faster. You need to get in the weight room. And yes, I get it, but nobody taught me how to run. Maybe my mechanics were bad, or maybe I can just do some simple plyometrics and some simple body weight stuff and be a better mover. I always say with my high level athletes is I want you to be a B or a B- in the weight room. I want you to be an A or A+ on the court. And I say that to my high school kids. You'll get in older guys is some of them love the weight room, right? But some of them don't. And I say, you're here to be successful on the court, So I think that's something that when you said that about you just need to throw the ball more, I was like, hell yeah. Because my coach probably would have said, no, get your arms stronger, do some bicep curls and shoulder presses. And I'm like, maybe it is turning a little bit, or maybe you just got a good coach.
It's funny too, like when you said that about being a B in the weight room, my mind immediately went to, I am a Kentucky Wildcats basketball fan. And so my mind immediately went to Tayshaun Prince. Do you remember Tayshaun Prince? Good NBA player too, a 3-and-D kind of guy, skinny as a rail. I mean, the guy did not look like he had much muscle on him at all, especially at Kentucky. Went on to have a really good NBA career. And then the other thing I think about is Yannick Sinner, who is the #1 tennis player in the world right now. If you saw that guy in person, there's no way you would think he is the best tennis athlete in the world. He's got very little muscle tone. Man, can he move?
Right.
He can get in and out of breaks, back and forth, side to side, change of direction, all the stuff you need. It's incredible.
Most of the best, it's a little bit different now because the training is quite a bit better. But even when I was doing it, the best basketball players weren't, the best in the weight room. Every athlete's a little bit different and made different. And that's another kind of topic, whether they're a power athlete or an elastic athlete, how their ribs are, how their hips are. That's another topic where we can get real anal. But yeah, you want to be good at what you do, and you want the weight room to help you in those things. And being able to bench press 225 pounds 19 times is not probably going to get you to hit the tennis ball better or more efficient, or to be able to do a Euro step, or be able to, so it's becoming better, I hope. And I think it's small pockets too. But yeah, we're always going to want to see that guy push as much weight as we can, just because I don't know, because we're Americans. I don't know.
Yeah. do you find that, like that type of mentality, the other thing that, I mean, this is just me, personal observation, seeing different people in the gym and different things like that. The more muscle mass you put on, it seems like the harder it is to be fluid in your movements and to have that elasticity and mobility that you talk about. That's so important. How do those two things relate? My desire to get stronger versus my desire to want to be mobile and flexible.
And I think it depends on what sport you play, what position you play, how you play it. We can just use Michael Jordan as an example, right? Because everybody knows Jordan. As his career came closer to an end, he added something where he didn't have to slash to the basket as much. A lot of the NBA guys, as they get older, you better develop another skill. And most of the time with the bigger guys, even though the bigs are kind of dead, the big post guys, the Shaqs, you want to lose more weight to be a little bit more agile and flexible. The game is different. Same thing with the tennis. Like, everything's evolving and different. It depends what sport you play, what position. Here's something that you might not think about is stiffness and lack of range of motion might be more efficient for a linebacker, right? So if they're quite stiff and they don't have very good hips, that might actually help them. So depending on what position you have, now maybe from a health standpoint, definitely not when they get older, but sometimes stiffness can help in certain sports. So that's something too to think about depending on what position you play and what you need to do. So I think that has a lot. And you're not going to see, for example, I'm 6 foot, 190 now. Could I have been a marathon runner? I mean, I was pushing my genetics if I really wanted to do that, and I probably wouldn't have been damn good because I don't look like those Kenyan guys. So everybody's kind of built to kind of do something a little bit better. So that's something, I know it's a little bit off the topic, but if you look at tennis players, they're kind of all made similar. Like the best basketball players, they're kind of the same. The volleyball players, position-wise, are kind of the same. You kind of look like what you're, I can pick out what sport some of these people played because you're kind of made that way. But again, with kids, we don't want to say, we don't want to be that parent that says, oh, you're not going to be 6'5". You're not going to be able to, we don't want to do that. But the older we get, you can kind of see, right? There's not a lot of 5'8" guys doing this sport or doing that sport, right? All the marathon runners kind of look alike. Right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I gave up my basketball dreams in middle school because I knew I wasn't going to get called. Yeah. Absolutely.
You still have time, John.
Yeah.
Senior Olympics are around the corner.
I can just grow that 6 more inches or so, but yeah, and you're right. You can see that. This is slightly off of our original topic of sort of corporate athletes or whatever, but I am kind of curious about that. Do you think that it's the genetics that does that? Or do you think that sometimes the sport itself will shape a person's body into certain, because I can
kind of know what I'm going to say. The sport will shape you, right? And I say this from the checkout lady. So the checkout lady at, whatever grocery store, she's going to be doing this for 20 something years, or that person that's doing this, or that person that's squatting we know the osteoblast and the bones reclassify and remold depending on what you're doing, and they break down and build back up. So yeah, the sport is going to turn you into that sport, whether it's soccer and you're going to be becoming more, slightly bow-legged. If you're a dancer, right? I can pick out my 2 or 3 dancers that I have. They're externally rotated. They're always plantar flex. They have no IR in their hips. You can pick out because the sport or the activity will definitely change you. And then you just got to pick better parents if you want to do that sport. You want to be a marathon runner, all right, you better go pick some parents that runners.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is obviously a little bit of both. Like, I'm 5'9", so obviously my genetics played a role into my lack of an NBA career. I need another 10 inches.
That's the reason.
That's the reason. That's the only reason too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so there is definitely that, but I've also seen the sports themselves. And it's funny because I feel the same way. I can sit and watch, and I can always tell a soccer player, like you can see a soccer player from a mile away, at least I can. And high level athletes in general, in football players too, they are built differently. I remember I met Bill Cowher once, who's the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers or whatever.
Mhm.
Met him in an airport and just walked up to him and said, "Hi, coach, nice to meet you." Whatever. And his hands were massive. Like, I mean, this guy was like a third string linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. He ended up being a legendary coach, but his fingers were just huge. You're born with that. Like, he had giant hands, and they just engulfed my hand in this little. I'm like, wow, okay. Yeah. Obviously, I was never going to be an NFL player.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then I want to play devil's advocate with that, where I had, the privilege of being around Steve Nash, Jameer Nelson, like some very good point guards, and to appreciate how springy and athletic they were to be 5'9", 6'2". And then I also trained guys that were 6'8", 6'9", 7 feet, and being like, you're successful in the land of giants. Like, you're something special. And that's something too, a little bit off the subject, that bad training can take away that. Right. So if that makeup of that person isn't harnessed, and I always say with my great athletes, you're going to be great without me. I just want to enhance what you're already great at. And that's something too, but to flip it the other way, where, everybody knows Allen Iverson, right? Where he's pretty tiny, and Steve Nash was pretty tiny, MVP of the league. Like, to be that successful and those big guys, like, you weren't supposed to, but they did, he did a good job. So that's just kind of the other part of the spectrum too, the outliers a little bit. But most of the time, the guy with the big hand, the guy that's made to do it, hopefully he finds or she finds the path that will help them. So it's cool to think about.
It is.
And I think a lot of the athletes too, like whether they're corporate athletes or professional or kids, it's like, I tell my daughter, because my daughter's on the shorter side, even though my husband and I are both tall. I'm like, you'll get there. But I was like, you can't lean on your height. Like, I could have leaned on my height when I was your age because I was tall when I was 12. But so you got to be faster, and I think with the athletes that are on the smaller side in the land of giants, they got to be faster. They got to be more agile. You got to be quicker. And I think even as you get older, you can lean into those excuses. Well, my feet hurt, or I'm tired, or my bones hurt, or whatever name your ailment. And you can use that as a reason to not do something. Or you can be like, well, my feet are tired today, so I'm going to work on my arms, work on my shoulders, or push-ups or something. And that's also something, as we get older, it's easier to find reasons not to do stuff because we're busy, or we're hurting, or whatever. But it's like, if you can say, I can't do that today, but I can do this, even if it's something small, like a 30-minute workout, like you mentioned. It's like, just something small is like a win, when you have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I think people lack that. Like you said, it's just being creative and being, my feet hurt. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, you can still sit on a machine and do something. You can still get on a bike. This hurts. Well, I can't do it. No, figure out a way, and if you don't, that's where you hire an expert, somebody to help you with that. What we do here a lot is, and I had this in the hospital system too, where I was working, is we have orthos and PTs in-house here. So I'm pretty good at what I do, but there's obviously a lot that I don't know. And if there's something I don't know and there's an element, I have that good relationship with my PTs in-house that they can either walk out on the floor, or I schedule one of my corporate or my athletes with them, and we can get the best of both worlds. Do the little tune-up. We're still not, their adductor is still strained. Don't put them in a lengthened position. Their ankle, their Achilles, we're still recovering. Make sure you do your rehab. We can do everything else. And I had that at my other facility, and I have that here, and I'm super grateful to be able to combine those. So if there's something I don't know, and that person has that ankle or knee or something that I don't know about, that I can't solve, I have somebody else to lean on, and then we can keep them progressing so they don't make up some excuse. My foot hurts. I don't care. If we can get your butt in here, and we're going to do something and still work on around that stuff. So I think that's a mindset too.
Yeah, I can actually speak to the benefit of exactly what we're talking about, because I've gone through all of that, and I've worked with Andrew as my trainer, and then Emily with PT, and the combination of the two really makes a big difference, as long as you do the homework, and that's important too. But you got to do the homework.
Yes.
It does make a really big difference. And I think, wrapping this up a little bit, for me, one of the things that I want to get across to people is that, obviously you can start anywhere, but one of the things that's benefited me a lot is to have a person that I can see once a week for accountability purposes. Like I'm always going to be there every Friday at 9 a.m., but also for the motivation and the variability. And it's like the workout is the same, but different every week. And it's because things change and things progress. It has let me see when I've worked with a trainer, it has let me see how much better I've gotten at a lot of these things that you're talking about. My hand-eye coordination is better. My feet are faster. I feel stronger than I've ever felt in my life. But it's functional strength and it's functional movement. And the confidence that I've gotten from that has been really, really wonderful. But it's also, I feel like I'm going to live longer because of this too. And, there's all these other things that kind of go into it. And so for me, I look at it as it's a small investment in my health and in my future and in my relationships with my friends and family that I will be there and be healthy for them for as long as possible. And at least for me, that's my motivation. I love to play tennis, but my real motivation is I want to be healthy for my son and for maybe my, grandchildren one day and for my wife and for my parents. And
I agree. Because health is wealth. And the same thing is like, invest in it. And, just to toot Andrew's horn, like Andrew's not a normal trainer, right? Like Andrew studies it and he does all those things. So it's just like when you take your car to a place or you go to get furniture, like you may not just go to that normal place. Like you're going to find what is the right fit. I think people need to do their homework. It's just like going to a doctor, right? Like that stuff's important. All you got is one body. So take care of it, man. Cause it doesn't matter how much you have in the bank. If you can't go and play with your kids, your significant other, and go out and do what you love, what does it matter if you have all that money in the bank?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we wrap this up, we've already gone over our time a little bit. So I hope you can hang on for just a couple more minutes.
Sure.
So we normally do this lightning round, which is like 3 little questions, 3 quick questions. I'm going to break question number 1 into 2 parts because you've been a trainer of NBA players and other things. I have this in 2 questions. 1, what is your proudest moment as a trainer of elite athletes? And then what is your proudest moment as a trainer for a corporate athlete?
For my pro athlete is recovering from a herniated disc, and I got him to recover faster than what he should have with the help of some great physical therapists. And to see him leave the league in rebounding and hug him in the locker room before he went out, that was pretty cool because it was supposed to be a career-ending injury. And the combination of the team to be able to do that. And then with the corporate people, I would just say recently I have a group of 3 to 4 that are mid 50s, maybe early 50s. And I can put them up against some of my groups that are 30 and 35-year-old. And these corporate guys are pretty banged up, but as a group, we've done a great job of getting to that. And like that is, I love that. Like, and the confidence to see that they kick butt in the office, in the meetings, and that they can still kick butt in the weight room, and just to see the confidence, like they got that little swag, like when they come in, and like I embrace that. So that is awesome.
Yeah, it definitely does make you feel more confident mentally, physically, everything else. And that is really cool about the herniated disc. My wife actually had a herniated disc, so I can relate to the pain that someone experiences in that because I saw it firsthand. That's really cool. All right. So if you aren't ready to go to the gym, if you're just a person who's listening to this right now and you're not ready to go to the gym, what are like 1 or 2 things that are really important to have at home that I could just get started with? You said a tennis ball earlier. I think a tennis ball is probably a simple, easy one. But what are a couple of things if I'm going to go buy and spend $50, what should I go spend money on?
I wouldn't spend money on anything. I mean, the first thing I would do, you got stairs. You can walk up and down stairs. You can get your heart rate up. Is very simple. Pick 3 exercises. I'm just going to use a wall sit. I'm going to use a lunge, and then I'm going to use the stairs. All right. Set a timer, set something for 3 minutes, and just don't stop. Do 5 of one, do 5 of the other, do 5 of the other. If you need to rest, and make it super, super simple. Pick 3 things. 3 exercises. A sit-up, a lunge, it doesn't matter what they are really. It's like you said, getting in that routine. And all right, week 1, I did 3 minutes. I stopped 6 times and I only did, I only went through the round twice. Great. Check it off. But don't be that person that just, I don't have time. I don't have equipment, Stop making it super complicated and saying, well, I'm not working on my rotation here and this and that. Who gives a crap? Just move, progress it that way.
Cool. All right. Last one. Is it more realistic to find a workout that you enjoy or to teach yourself to enjoy working out?
I say you got to have one that you enjoy. Right.
Okay.
So if you don't enjoy, and that's the job of the coach or the trainer, is to find something. So I always, I don't want a person here that doesn't want to be here, but if they understand that it's going to help them on the court or whatnot, then we'll go there. But I say you have to find something that you like. Pilates, tennis, you have to find something else. You're really not going to do it. And it's going to be like, I'm going to fall off. So that's my experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is true. There's so many different options, so many different things that you can do to have a goal, even if that's hiking or walking or playing pickleball or playing with your kids in the yard. I think for me, definitely, it's about finding something that I enjoy. I personally hate going to the gym and just lifting weights. That is torture for me. Also, running without a ball is torture for me. Don't ask me to go, like Mari just ran a 5K last weekend or whatever. And I don't want it. That's not interesting to me. That's boring. But I will run all day.
I drugged my son through a 5K. I don't know if he ran the
so you did it as a good parent. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You do it, as a family.
Yeah, like give me a ball and make me chase a ball. I'll do that all day long. I'll run more than a 5K if I pick the ball, right? And everybody has to have their own thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
awesome.
This has been a lot of fun. We've really, really enjoyed this. Bryan, thanks for coming on and spending a little over an hour with us today. Yeah.
Pleasure, man. I appreciate it. I think we could probably talk all day about this stuff.
Oh, definitely. And we'll think of some other topics and some other ideas. And hopefully if people have some questions that they want to throw at you, we might send those back out to you to answer. And maybe we can build a little chat every once in a while.
Awesome.
We'll have a little call.
Love what you guys do, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so much, Bryan.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye. All right, Mari, I am thoroughly exhausted. I actually worked out this morning and my arms feel like Jell-O and they're very heavy. I saw Bryan in the gym and so I'm kind of feeling refreshed after we've had a few days to think about this one and working out a little bit and realizing and putting into practice a couple of the things that he talked about here. So let's get going. What's your takeaway?
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking because I feel like you and I are similar and we have our athletic backgrounds and we're transitioning from like those kind of athletes into where we are now, which I like how he calls them corporate athletes. And so my takeaway was that, it's good as we age to think about how we're exercising and staying fit differently. And that, when we were, playing in college or high school, or you're still playing a lot, but it's like, we're kind of transitioning from playing an athletic sport a lot of times. Sometimes we're still playing an athletic sport, but it's like we're also training now for life and longevity and health and balance and like being able to pick up our kids and grandkids and do those things. And so I like how he talks about just, looking at functional exercises and movements and all those things and how critical and important just stretching and recovery is to your long-term health, but also like your long-term, keeping yourself safe from massive injury. Because as we know, as you get older, injuries last a lot longer and are harder to recover from. And I think it's interesting because for me, like, recovery was like when you're a kid, you're like, I don't need to recover. Like, I don't need to stretch. Like, what's that? And you realize as you get to be an adult, how important and how critical recovery is and how important stretching is and drinking water and drinking electrolytes and all those things, because they do help you recover and they help you, be more prepared for the next workout. And so I thought that was really cool to talk about because we start working out when we're young, but ideally we're continuing to do that as we get older and our sports just change. The activities that we're training for just change. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, sometimes your activity is just getting out of bed in the morning.
Punching the lawnmower uphill.
Yeah, I pulled my hamstring walking to the mailbox.
Yes.
It can get bad. It can get really bad. I totally agree. I think recovery has been a big one. It's been a big topic. It just generally, I think out in the world, people are talking about recovery a lot more. You hear those discussions. And it definitely has become more important. Your sleep obviously has become more important too. I definitely see a need to focus on recovery a lot. For me, a big part of my recovery is, like foam rolling after I play tennis or whatever. But then the diet part becomes a really big part of that too. We'll talk about that when we get to my quit, because it has to do a little bit with diet and a little bit with training. So my takeaway is sort of the role of the central nervous system in all of this. I think when I was a kid, I remember very vividly, my hand-eye coordination was above average compared to a lot of my peers, but things came easily to me. Being able to catch a ball or to move and catch or to track something and to run, like that central nervous system thing was functioning on its own because you're growing and it's just a natural part of life, and you're learning all these new skills and all these new movements, and it becomes really normal. And then maybe as we get older, we stop learning that stuff. We stop pushing ourselves as much, and we need to sort of reinvigorate that central nervous system kind of thing. And so I really liked the way he talked about using balls to drop a ball and catch a ball, or to do different things that seem kind of basic, honestly, for somebody who's been an athlete to think like, oh, I should throw a ball against a wall and then catch it. That's not super challenging or whatever, but there's ways that you can make it challenging for you. And it's about sort of like reconnecting those things that used to be connected and used to be sort of automatic, especially when we were younger. And then all of a sudden you think like, oh, well, I used to be able to do this and it was easy. And now my eyes see it, my brain says do it, and my hands won't go, or my feet won't go, or my body won't move in that way anymore. And so then the other part of that takeaway is just kind of like give yourself a little grace when you can't do what you used to do when you were younger. I think that's a hard lesson that you have to learn if you've taken any time off of sports or whatever, is that you get back out there and you go push yourself way too hard the first week or something, and you're like, whoa, oh, can't handle this. I quit. I'm going to go back to just chilling on the couch again.
Yeah, you're not 18 anymore. Like your 18-year-old brain is, you're still thinking like you're an 18, 20 something. And then your body's like, no, we can't actually die for that without ripping up your back or something like that. And there's that disconnect between where you were and kind of where you physically are. That's tricky.
Yeah, it really is. It's very tricky. I just bought, by the way, a pickleball paddle.
Nice.
I know I'm cheating on the sport a little bit here. We should have a whole other podcast discussion about pickleball versus tennis. Yes. But I might try to play a little bit more, but I'm worried that it's going to ruin my volleys in my tennis game, and maybe it'll make it better. I don't know, but it's going to be something it's kind of like tennis, but it'll push me in a slightly different direction. And so, I'm going to start to maybe get out there and hit the pickleball around a little bit too. So anything to change it up. I think that was the thing that I was kind of taking away from Bryan, is like, just change it up a little bit, just make it a little different and push your body in a different way. And it was like that when I was a kid. Like I was always changing it up or trying something different or playing a new sport or doing whatever. Yeah. So don't just get stuck doing what you were doing. All right. So what are we going to start? What are we going to quit here?
Yes. So I am going to start with my quit. I'm going to try to be like less hard on myself. I still have this gym guilt when there's days I wake up and I'm like, I didn't sleep great. Like my dog is sick and he was snoring all night last night and I was friggin' slept terrible. And I was like, I got to get up and get to my class. And if I don't go, then I feel bummed all day. I mean, I feel bummed because it also gives me like endorphins and I feel good about myself. But if I need to learn to like let myself go also when I need to physically recover from, I worked out 4 days in a row, or we did something and I hurt my back or whatever. And so I'm going to try to like quit being so hard on myself when I do need to take a day off, and understand that recovery is also an important part of being physically healthy and mentally healthy. So yeah, I'm going to quit being so hard on myself. What about you?
Yeah, that's a really, really good one. I like that. I'm going to quit being inconsistent with my training and diet. I think consistency is another key element here. And I have this tendency, it's not really a tendency, it's actually a habit. I like to give myself special treats at night, and they're little glasses of ice cream. Since I gave up drinking and I gave up all this, I'm like, I should get some ice cream. And now I feel like it's time to maybe give that up a little bit too, and to try to really push myself a little bit farther to see if I can clean up my diet even a little bit more and get a few more gains. And then along with those gains would be, to be sort of, I guess, conscious or aware of my training regimen every week. I kind of just do it when I feel like doing it. Like I go play when I feel like playing tennis. I do work out every Friday. I go walk with my wife when I feel like walking, but just like sort of making it more of a routine and carving out, okay, on, Mondays I do this, and on Tuesdays I do this, and on Wednesdays I do that, and see if I can get into a routine and see if I can see some gains that way too. Cause that's one of the other things. So I'm going to quit being inconsistent, and I'm going to start creating a better, more solidified routine for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, routine is key for me, and it is like it's hard. It's hard to like. There's so many different ways you can work out, and it can get super overwhelming. Like, should I do this? Should I do bar? Should I play pickleball? Should I do weights? Should I do CrossFit? And so I do find myself getting a little swimmy, and then I try to remind myself I'm moving every single day. Then that's like a win most of the time. So I'm going to start trying to maintain consistency, but some days when I need a break or whatever, I thought it was cool. He was saying that you don't always have to go to the gym for an hour and a half. Like if you get up and you're like, I'm going to do something for 15 minutes, I'm only going to focus on shoulders. I'm just going to do like, shoulder presses and push-ups or whatever. Like that's a win. So I liked that idea because a lot of times, especially if I'm going to go and do weights, I'm going to think about, doing a whole thing, and that's 45 minutes to an hour, and I might not have that time. But just doing those little micro workouts, I thought that was a cool way to like get some quick wins in a short period of time. So it's like, okay, well, if I have 15 minutes, I can go, lift some weights or do some push-ups. And that's like helping me build strength. So I thought that was a really cool takeaway. And that was something I can easily kind of weave in on the days when I can't get to the gym or get to a class or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like being consistent, but also realizing that you don't have to do everything that you think you're supposed to do on that day. Just giving the effort for even 10 or 15 minutes is better than not giving the effort at all, or better than pushing yourself when you're hurting or not feeling at your best and going like, well, I still got to get that hour in, that hour behind even more the next day and then the next day. Yeah.
Well, it's like my husband he runs a ton and he's running every single morning and he's doing long distances, and I'll be like, dude, take a day off. And he's like, he loves it. But I was like, sometimes it's just okay to walk. Like you run 5 miles, like just walk for like 3 miles. Like you're still moving. And it's interesting when we're doing some training for like a relay race. I remember like I would take, as you get closer to the race, you're supposed to taper off your longer runs and not run as much before. And I remember like taking a couple days off between like a long run and then another one. And I actually got stronger and better taking a break and just like switching from running to walking. Cause it was like, I'm physically moving and I keep going and I'm kind of like actively stretching, dynamic stretching. And I was like, wow, that's actually a nice break from having to run, but I was still moving and I was still, still kind of getting better and improving without having to like tear my body apart every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you can't tear your body apart every single day. Walking is a really good recovery thing. That's what I tend to do on the day after I do something really heavy. If I play a long match, or if I go, like today I worked out this morning with my trainer. And so tomorrow I actually have a match, but then I'll probably walk on Sunday so that I get recovery after those 2 days. And that will give me a little bit of a break, but I'm still moving. I'm still kind of like getting all of the systems going and the blood flowing, and maybe you get some stuff cleaned out, get rid of some lactic acid or whatever and some soreness.
Yeah.
And if you don't move, and this is one thing I've learned too, is if I don't move the next day after a workout, then it lingers. The soreness lingers longer.
Yeah.
And
I say it's like the Tin Man. It's like lock up, like oil can.
Yeah. You got to keep that stuff moving. And so again, that goes back to like, if you only have 20 minutes, just do it for 20 minutes, just walk around the block once, do whatever it is just to get things going. So I really like that. I like that a lot. Awesome. Well, this has been a fun episode for us. It's been a lot of fun to just talk about fitness, because this is something that you and I talk about all the time when we're not on a podcast. We're not talking about, work stuff. We tend to talk about fitness and exercise. So it was fun to have a podcast. Thanks so much to Bryan for showing up today. And thank you to all of our listeners who have stuck it out this long for this long podcast. Until next time, I'm John.
And I'm Mari.
And we're reminding you that quitters can win and winners can quit. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the guest's own and do not necessarily represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Command Q or Uncompany.